Combine continues here in Indianapolis. We've got Panthers head coach Dave Canales. All right, so your second combine as a head coach. Walk us through what a typical day looks like.
Right now, because of the interviews in the evening, the day has been a lot of just chipping away, just keep striking the mountain of college players to watch. Started off after the season looking at some free agents, but right now it's like making sure that I've seen the players that we're interviewing at least a little bit, and then from there just kind of working through our board and really trying to just get my first eyes on it, and then we'll start to segment out positions and start stacking apples to apples in different areas, So I really enjoy this part of it. And then in between that, it's just connecting with friends, people that I've worked with in the past or that I've run into.
When you say you're looking at college players and the evaluation part of it, are you looking at guys that the scouts have given you a list for, guys that have been brought to you by another source? What's that process like?
Yeah, so it's a great process where Dan and the scouts have kind of organized it for us. And then again, like I said, the priority for me is the players that we're interviewing in person in our formal interviews in the suites in Lucas Oil. So I want to make sure before I talk to these guys that I've seen what they do on the field a little bit at least, and then it kind of helps to fill in the picture for me. But from there, it's just our board that is kind of the evaluation process, continues all the way up until the day of the draft, and it's guys going up and down as this full picture of the workup of the pro day, the 30 visits potentially, the Zooms that are going to happen with our staff, and all the background that as coaches we can't know that the scouts have filled us in on.
You mentioned the player interviews. What matters in those?
To me, it's about self-awareness. I want to make sure that we're asking them questions and giving them space to show us who they are. They can be very guarded and prepped for these interviews. But if we can just talk about football and I can ask a guy, tell me your football journey. I want to hear a really well-organized timeline, kind of here's when I started playing. These are kind of some of the critical people that have impacted me. I love to hear when a guy says, when I was in the 10th grade, we were playing against such and such, and they had this player, his name was so-and-so. And to me, this was kind of a test to see if I really had it. And I crushed this guy. And I kind of knew at that point, I can really do something with my career. I love to hear answers like that.
Why?
This is if a person can have a really detailed story going backwards, I believe this is a person who can have a really detailed vision going forwards. And they will maximize their potential. They will find their best. They will become as good as they're supposed to become because they have a grasp of their story. They have like kind of an epic sense about them, Where the guys who kind of like, I don't know, I've just been talented and like here we are. It's like, I don't know if this guy's going to – he may be a good player. I don't think he's going to be a great player because he doesn't know where he's going.
I asked Dan Morgan about this too. We get into the combine week and we can get very enamored by what you see, the measurables. And sometimes it seems the further you get away from the college football season, the more focus is put on the combine. How do you weigh what you see at the combine versus the game film?
Yeah, you always got to let the film bring you back. But I think that these interactions, how they do in this setting, is a pretty stressful environment. The pro day is a more relaxed situation where they're kind of, somewhere familiar for them. But I think it helps to kind of like create a little bit of, discrepancies, creating a little bit more space between or moving guys up. I think it really helps set the board when you take the whole picture. So all this stuff matters. That's why I still choose to come and be here and see these guys in person and shake this dude's hand. And that means something,
Especially if there's a firm grip.
Absolutely. Like, especially if I'm like shaking my hand after. But so I think it does help to fill in. But at the end of the day, go back to the film.
When you're evaluating draft prospects, how important is scheme fit?
It is important. It is important because there are certain things. We have a vision for what a high-level nose tackle looks like in our defensive scheme. We have a vision for what we're going to ask this tight end to do. And because of that vision, that's where the clearer we can see this person making that transition, then the more confidence we have in that pick. Where, hey, this guy's really talented. He's a phenomenal player. I don't know where he fits. That's risky. I think it's really important.
Going to the end of last season, arrows pointing up. There were a lot of positives down the stretch. So, as someone who calls the plays on offense, what does the year 2 checklist for the offense look like?
Go right back to the beginning.
Meaning?
Right back to the basics. We got to take better care of the ball. We have to be crazy about it. The defense has to teach us how to protect the ball in practice by attacking it every day. It's about not taking for granted how hard we had to work to find a really good run game, to find balance, to improve on third down. We have to make sure that when I think historically of the teams that have sustained success, the Seahawks and being there for a while, the Patriots, they have a relentless commitment to the basics, to the fundamentals. And then we'll add things that will fit Bryce better. We'll learn Bryce year 3, year 2 in the system. We'll become more specific things based on what our players show us they can do. But it's always got to be a return to the basics and the fundamentals.
We saw guys develop through the course of your first season here. You draft a player, you've got rookies who will be second-year players. Walk us through what the developmental process for the guys who are already in-house looks like.
Yeah, I think first and foremost it starts off with kind of relearning these players. They're different now. You think about all the challenges that the guys here at the Combine are going through right now and what they will face in the next couple of months. That's not a regular offseason.
Right.
So reconnecting with Xavier and with JT and with Trevin and reconnecting with those guys now. Who are they now? I bet you there's parts of their personality I still don't know about them that they will naturally show us, knowing that they don't have to go and do all these things, So starting there, connecting with the person, and then having a vision for what the next step is, and making sure that we're connected through the whole time.
For Bryce in particular, I'm sure you got this question a lot. What is the next step?
Again, I'll tell you once I talk to him when he comes back in a couple of weeks here. He's going to be different. This is year 3. He's seen success. He is a leader. He's established himself as our quarterback. He's going to be different. And then we'll go through this past season. We'll look at the things that we can improve on all that stuff. And then we'll start off with our offense, with the basics, and then we'll become, at whatever pace this offense can become with Bryce being the quarterback.
The other guy in the quarterback room, Andy Dalton, why was it so important to bring him back?
Relationship, his relationship with Bryce, first and foremost, and the fact that we have a player who can still play at a really high level, which we saw firsthand.
Sure.
He got in there. We saw an offense start to make yards, make points, operate, all those things. Such a value to be able to have that guy as your backup, to know that you have that. But it's his investment in Bryce. It's the way that he's, championed Bryce when he was in there. It's the way that Bryce championed Andy when he was in there. But let's be clear. Bryce is our quarterback. Andy understands he's coming in to be our backup and to bring major value into that quarterback room.
We've got philosophical alignment, continuity. The one area, the offensive line, you get continuity back in that unit. For your offense specifically, what does continuity up front entail?
It's communication. Want everybody talking all across the board. We got to do a better job of that. When Corbett was in there, did a great job. When Brady was in there, Cade, we were blessed to have a couple of really smart, really tough guys that could come in and keep us rolling, and keep us functioning offensively. So, the center position is going to be a huge decision for us to make sure that we get that continuity or get somebody in there that can, that can do that. But this is a big, nasty group that loves playing with each other. And so I'm looking forward to that, building off of that.
Yeah, speaking of big and nasty, what's a healthy Derrick Brown worth?
Oh, my goodness. And not just the player and the talent, but it's the person. It's the attitude. It's the culture. It's the locker room. It's the way he practices, Anish. That is the most important piece of this whole thing. Well, okay, he's amazing on Sunday, let's be honest. But it's how he practices. It affects the entire group. Nobody gets to take plays off. That's not who we are as a defense. Nobody gets to loaf on this play. We're chasing everything down, and we're knocking everything out. That's who he is. That's what he stands for. I can still see him just swaying side to side on the sideline, just like painstakingly watching as teams run the ball at us every week. And I can see him, and I know how hungry he is to get back out there with his teammates to make a statement about this group and also for the team, the toughness and the things that we stand for.
Yeah, when you start to look at some of the pieces you'd like to put around Derrick Brown on that defense, I know you don't want to get into individual players. So what kind of players are you looking for to fill in the rest of the defense?
Yeah, it's about attitude. We have to find the right character players that end the play violently. At some point in the duration of this 4 to 8 seconds, there's going to be something really violent that happens with the players that we bring in here. That's the type of mentality and attitude it takes to be great. And when you watch playoff football and you see these defenses who come together at this time when it's hard, when it's cold, when they're beat up, they take it to another level. And they're just so connected from a physical standpoint. It means something to them. It's so important to them. They can't stand to let each other down, and they're in this pursuit together. But I want guys that we bring in to have that type of mentality. They come from places that have seen success and seen what it's like to play really hard for each other.
Last thing is you got free agency and you got the draft. In terms of constructing the roster, where do you want to be at the end of free agency before the draft starts?
Just add quality players. I just want to add, I don't care if it's 2 or 3.
Even if it's a double down, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me. I just want to find quality players who play with the style that I'm looking for. We want to bring those guys in. It's about
dogs.
It's about attitude. Dogs. It's about character. My cat's pretty aggressive too, though. By the way, my knuckles are all torn up because
that's for my cat. How big's your cat?
Oh, she's not very big. She's fierce, but it's that kind of attitude that we want to bring in.
What's the cat's name?
Calypso. She's a black cat too,
like a panther. Calypso. Cat. That's a dog.